How's it going, guys? I'm back in Fallout 4. This time I'm going to be doing the decoration for the first floor, which is just the marketplace of my Starlight Drive-In rebuild. So this is going to be part of my series that I'm going to have on my channel. Just occasionally I'll just go back and I'll do some older builds, and I'll show you guys some of my older builds, and then I'll also recreate those builds, because a lot of my older builds uh, I made them thinking like, oh, these are really cool, and then after I look at them with mods available now and the DLCs all out, I kind of just wish that I was able to redo them. So that's what I'm gonna do. This is separate from my main save right now, or from the save that I'm currently on. This is on a separate save. This is the same one that I had the Sanctuary Treehouse, and so this build I wanted to have just all of the marketplace, or the marketplace was going to have all of the different vendors. It was going to have the weapons and armor, and also the general goods, and the clothing store. And so on this side, I have the clothing store and the general goods. And you'll notice, like, almost immediately that I'm like using Aslam's decoration, workshop decoration pack heavily, just because it's such a great mod, and it's nice to be able to use whenever you want to have decorated shelves or stores like this and not have to worry about really decorating it yourself. It takes a lot to really fill in shelves and stuff like that. So my goal for this was to kind of just uh, make it look like there was tons of goods for people to buy at this store. And so to be able to do that, I need stocked shelves and stuff and all the goods out for people to see. That's why I used this type of general good, I don't know, this type of vendor stand. That's what it is. And instead of just using the basic one, because I wanted it to look a little bit different. And then on this side, I have a clothing stand, and so I'm using the clothing racks from Aslam's decoration pack, and also uh, just some, what's it called? Coat racks, yeah. And I'll have some goods out here. You notice that on the other side too, is I had some goods out there, and also some goods behind the shelf, or behind the vendor stand. And on this side, I wanted to have a decorated weapons stand, and I went ahead and went and used the regular one because I didn't want to repeat pretty much the same thing. I didn't want it to be like an exact mirror, because the layout is pretty similar, but I wanted the shops to look a little bit different. So then again on this side, I am using Aslam's decoration pack to fill in the back with armor. It had Minutemen clothes and armor, or what is it, dirty army fatigues. And then on this side, I used the weapon shelves, or shelf, and there's also one that has ammunition. And as you can see, it doesn't really work all that well. And so I eventually decide to go ahead and just use the rug glitch to actually place those. And then I thought that that fit in a little bit better on that side. That's why I just showed you guys me placing that. But right here, I'm just not pillar glitching, but rug glitching these in behind the vendor stand, just so that it kind of can get a little bit closer to the wall. That was the issue I was having, is it just wasn't getting close enough to the wall, and it also just wasn't letting me place it really, as you could have seen earlier. And since it's an armor shop, I wanted to have a power armor station and workbenches throughout the downstairs on this side, just to kind of make it look a little bit more different. On this side, I end up using both of the weapon workbenches. And yeah, the decorations, Like I said, I used a lot of Aslam's Workshop Decoration Pack, and I think that it really makes the build look a lot better. Uh, Decorations make this build actually look awesome, in my opinion. And then, as always, I just go ahead and stack up a few wooden crates around each of the stores, just because I feel like these really throw a build together. They make them look a little bit more lively, like there's goods just in there and stuff, and also they have to store things some places. So, and then also in that there's these market tables, and I figured that they would look good over here in front of the general store. And to do that, I thought about placing them in front of this window, but I eventually went ahead and used them to kind of separate the clothing store from the general goods, because it kind of just looks like one big area. But I think that having it separated kind of looks a little bit better. And then I go ahead and place some barrels down throughout the builds. I ended up using another market table, and you'll notice in the final tour that I actually placed some armor down on it, and I think that it ended up looking pretty good overall with the armor on it and everything like that. And then, like I said, just placing some wooden crates scattered around. Uh, I wanted to have that on the side, and then I decided that I wanted to have kind of something between it, so I had to scoot that over a little bit to kind of fill that gap. But yeah, a lot of my builds, I mean, this isn't anything that's like necessary. Like if you want to build little less complicated things, they still can look good. But a lot of this stuff I do just to kind of make it look like things are moving around in the build. And so like right here, these white boxes say Vault-Tec Vault suits, like 10 count, I think. And so since this is a clothing vendor, I wanted to have these kind of just laying around out front to make it look like there is like some goods in the store that aren't quite like shown to everybody. And I think that that's like a really cool way to kind of make your build look a little bit more alive. Um, and since this is like me showing you guys how I decorate, I figured I probably should explain why I do some of the things I do in my builds. And it's just in the final tour, you'll notice that like a lot of this just being thrown together makes the build just look 10 times better, in my opinion. Without all of these boxes and these crates and stuff like that, in my opinion, it just looks so much more less lived in. It looks like such more of a lived in settlement. And over here, I figured since it's a general store that they would sell like random things. That's why I put those clocks on the wall, a basketball hoop, and then you'll notice I go ahead and put a bunch of signs because I mean people have signs posted all throughout the game. So I mean they probably get them from someplace. I just pretended that this person had gone and got a bunch of signs in the past and then is just selling them now. Same with all the other junk kind of scattered throughout. And right here was just me checking to make sure it wasn't sticking through because that's been an issue before that I've had. But since it's just a regular wall, not like a warehouse wall or anything like that, it didn't actually go through anything. And then on this side, that's a huge thing in my opinion too, is to make your builds look a little bit better. Kind of like cover the walls up a little bit. It also helps with like repeating textures. So like there's only so many walls that I can use on PS4. I wish that I had a lot more options. I really tried to mix it up with this build, and like this build overall, I guess I tried to mix it up, but it's still hard because if you have a building that's as big as this one, it's almost impossible not to repeat textures throughout it. I just try not to show it all. Like when you look at the building from the outside, I try to make sure that you can't see the same wall in one frame unless you're like really far away, of course, then you might see it. But I try to have it so far away that you actually can't notice whenever it's like on the same side, I guess. I just try to really change up all of my builds and try to change up my walls and have variations and stuff like that. And in this part, uh, I'm just putting down some lights. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use light bulbs and stuff because I tried to like really limit the amount that I use because not everyone has the access to like power and stuff. And so I actually ended up placing a lot of them. And you'll notice that as I get farther into the build. Because I figured because this is such a like a big store that people would have access to that kind of stuff. People would have access to generators or power of some kind. And then these last bits are just fine details, you know. I placed that little sign down. It was a standing, like, trigger man type of thing. And then just placing down some more signs. Place down a inner sign on this side, and then they've got a flipped one from Nuka World. And then just a couple more things from Nuka World. I kind of just started throwing up things that I thought would be a little bit more interesting. And then, like I said, I wanted to have power, but I didn't know exactly where to put the generator, so I just shoved it underneath. Uh, I didn't want to use the windmill or anything like that because I have intentions of building on top of this build, and I don't want to go too high up, you know. And then right here, I wanted to have lights across the front entrance, so when you come in, it's kind of hanging all the way across. And I wanted to have lights in front of and behind each of the vendors. And then it just seemed a little bit too dim, and you'll notice that later in it that I actually... So these are all the lights that I end up placing in front of each of the vendors' stalls or whatever. And right here, I'm just trying to... I try to place those lights, those track lights, on beams so they don't quite look like they're floating. And it actually ends up being a pretty good distance from each of the like vendors. And then like I said, I wanted to have a light behind each of the stands or whatever, and so right there I put one over the power armor station because I wanted it to be lit up. And you can see I turned that because I thought, oh, I'll put it on the middle beams, but it actually kind of floats when you do that. It looks like it's a little bit below it, and so I just think it looks better. And right here, for some reason, I put it way far up, and I'm trying to figure out where I am. I realize how far up I put it, and then I move it straight back. And then I ended up putting a bunch of like arrows, signs up to the front of the build. I guess I didn't show that. But then I just went ahead and put a neon light. And as you can see, the build is pretty much done, and it's just me just putting together the last few details, lighting up the middle area because it wasn't very lit up. I felt like it was really dark there in the middle, and then like right above the armor workbench, and again on the other side. But very lit up, very cool decoration, I thought. And you'll notice when we get inside, it just looks a lot more lively. And then, like I said, signs pointing people in the directions to go and stuff so people don't get lost, I guess. But yeah, I really like the way that this build turned out, especially with the decoration. It just makes it look a lot better. But let me know what you guys think. Check out some of my other videos while you're here. We're almost to 150. We actually might hit it before this is supposed to come out on Wednesday. It is Monday right now when I'm actually recording the audio of this. I did all my editing for this video on the weekend, but let me know what you guys think. Check out some of my other videos. Subscribe if you're not, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one.